냥지 제물도 돈 힘미정 돈은 혼음 침벌나게 바크르 다른 건 전도 실물도 돈바 뒤제장라기 정처로 내정로 정리 정건 공르토 그런 정량분 거로 용도 건 조가 위계서 돈이 냥보를 빌남저바 혼자 남저 상보로 소란데 내정로 정리 정건서 저거 뒤지셔는 일란 지금 분석자라 소란다 공기 똑반 보러 신지로 공기 똑반 보러 신지로 공기 똑반 보러 신지로
To liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the mind of bodhicitta. Today we will begin our class on Treasury of Wish Fulfilling. My plan is to give the teachings of this particular text on the shlokas or the verses part of it. On top of that, we will follow the teaching with the outline that's composed by Mipa Rinpoche. Longchenpa also had composed a commentary on this teaching, so I've also translated it into Chinese. And my requirement for those of you is to make sure that you read the commentary by yourself. Each week we will have 3 classes, and every week you should finish the corresponding commentary. If you don't finish it, then you are not permitted to come to my class and listen to the rest of the teachings. Because if you are only listening to my class but not reading the commentary on your own, then what's the point? This year, if we can finish the verses of the Treasury of Wish Fulfilling, I think it would be quite successful. Because after you finish studying this particular text, your understanding of all the Sutrayana and Vajrayana system would be, you would have a much solid foundation of the understanding of Sutrayana and Vajrayana.
简单的这个讲一下啊，就是这部这个如意宝藏论的话
The Treasury of Wish Fulfilling
很重要的
is of crucial importance. Great masters in Tibet, they paid great attention to this particular text. So if we can invest lots of effort and study this text attentively, I'm sure you will also understand why this is placed of such a great importance. At the beginning, I really didn't understand before I studied it, that is. But after I studied this text, I understood why this text is so important. We can say that this text is a Buddhist encyclopedia of Sutrayana and Vajrayana. Therefore, if one were to understand this text, then they will be able to understand the key points and framework of the Sutrayana and Vajrayana teachings. So throughout our study, I'm sure you will develop that understanding as well. Throughout the past of the few years, during the proofreading and translating and proofreading again and again, I couldn't help but had this feeling that if I can give the teaching of the Treasury of Wish Fulfilling to all of you, then even if I die, I would have no regret. This time, I think we should feel very fortunate that we have this opportunity to listen and study this text. Because there are people who, though really wanted to receive this particular teaching, but they don't have that causes and conditions anymore. Therefore, we need to cherish this opportunity. I really hope that you can spend more time to understand the text that we study every day. This time, I'm not going to be too extensive in terms of my teaching style. Rather, I wanted to give a hint to pique your interest. This time, I'm not going to give the explicit teaching in the style of word to word and sentence to sentence. Rather, I will give the teaching in a way that would be more concise. This text in Tibetan language as well as in Tibetan Buddhism is of crucial importance. Also, in Larungar, for many years, we have held the classes to specifically give teachings on the 7 treasures. Many Khenpos graduated from that class. There are a few Khenpos who are from my monastery. For example, one of them stayed in the monastery for 10 years and then came here for another 7 and 8 to study the 7 treasuries and then graduated from here. So that's the current 7 treasures class that's held in Larungar. In the Tibetan sector, they study all the 7 treasures, and in terms of me, I've given 3 out of the 7 treasuries. I have already taught on the treasury of Dhammadhatu 2 or 3 years ago. And then there's the teaching of Treasury of Peace Instruction that was taught back in 2000 and something. And then currently we're studying the wish-fulfilling treasury. I've already translated the treasury of natural state, but I haven't given teaching on it yet. The treasury of philosophical tenets is rather short. I think I should be able to finish next year or the year after because I've already finished the first draft of it, the translation. And then the treasury of the supreme vehicle, which is really a big project and very important text as well. There's the treasury of the words and meaning. For me, my aspiration is that as long as I don't encounter any grave obstacle, I will try my best to finish the translation of them in the next 5 to 10 years because I've already finished the first draft of most of them. That being said, proofreading and editing still takes a long time, so that's my future plan. In the past, I also bought some of the translations, the other translations from Taiwan. Also, I heard that some scholars are currently translating some of the texts as well, with lots of financial supports. According to the biography of Master Fazun, it says that Master Fazun translated the 7 treasuries, but till now, we couldn't find it. I assume that there are some reasons, that there could be outer and inner reasons. The 7 treasuries, as well as its commentaries that's given on the 7 treasuries. There are some that's available, but not as prevalent. I heard that the Westerners usually really enjoy the treasury of Dhammadhatu, and there are a few different translations. But I heard that the English version of the treasury of the wish-fulfilling treasury has only the first chapter translated into English. Some of the other treasuries are translated into a few languages, but the versions are rather quite old. Maybe there are the ones that's translated. Anyhow, the Tibetan language 7 treasuries are really important. Those of you who understand Tibetan, it's quite important for you to go and study it on your own. Even if you don't understand Tibetan language, then you should still get the book and you should prostrate to it and to make offering of lamps and water to it. This is really important because that is considered as one of the most important and precious jewel of Dharma. Now we have this opportunity to study such a supreme text. On one hand, we have to supplicate to the Dharma protectors, the Dharma palas, so that they can grant us blessings, so that we can finish studying this text without obstacles. On the other hand, it's quite important for us to practice confession, to confess and purify our obstacles. It is said that there's the protector who has one eye and has the protector who has 1,000 eyes, who's watching over this text and watching over people who are studying this text. Therefore, we should practice diligently on purification of our obscurations. Due to the limitation of time, we're not going to chant the longer after-class chanting. But during the teaching of the 7 treasuries, I think it's really important to make offering to the protectors. This is really crucial. I'm not so sure how much I will be able to cover today, but I want to talk a little bit on the translator's notes at the beginning of the class. This particular text, the translation, is completed this year. The verses as well as the commentary was translated, and the proofreading is finished this year. Also, the outline composed by Mipa Rinpoche is completed this year as well. I believe many of our fellow practitioners have this heartfelt longing to the wish-fulfilling treasury, because we've studied Mipa Rinpoche's Beacon of Certainty, where he discussed the question on whether the arhats attain the two selflessness, and he quoted a lot from the commentary of the wish-fulfilling treasury. And then later on, when he talked about the true existence and emptiness in the Madhyamika, he also quoted from Longchenpa. Not only Mipa Rinpoche, in fact, many other great masters quote from the wish-fulfilling treasury, as well as Longchenpa's teachings, including the words of my perfect teacher, where there are teachings talking about how human birth is precious. There are lots of quotations from Longchenpa as well as the treasury of the wish-fulfilling treasury. Many people asked me, requested me to translate this wish-fulfilling treasury. This particular text to me, myself, in fact, the first time when I received this teaching was back in 1985 when he went to Mount Wutai. He said that I will give the teaching of the verses of treasury of Dharmadhatu, and he gives the teaching for half a year on the peak of the mountain. And then later, around the east peak and the monastery over there, he gave the teaching of the treasury of words and meaning. At that time, he also asked the Khenpo Gaba to give us the oral transmission of wish-fulfilling treasury. In fact, Khenpo Gaba showed great kindness to me. He gave me lots of oral transmissions, including the perfect conduct ascertaining the 3 vows, as well as the Gyuhar Garba Tantra and the illusory net, because I missed those teachings and I was really heartbroken because I missed the teachings from Phuntsho Rinpoche. So I requested Khenpo Gaba to give me the oral transmission, and he did. Also, on the east peak of Mount Wutai, Khenpo Jingwang then give the oral instruction of the other treasuries, such as the treasury of word and meaning and the treasury of Dhammadhatu and so on. So, because
Kempo
Jingwon can give the oral transmission really quickly. Therefore, Ponso Rinpoche asked him to do it again the year after. So in my memory, I received the oral transmission from these Kempos. After such, I wanted to translate the 7 treasuries. So at the beginning, it was a bit difficult for me because my Chinese language skill was not that great. But later on, I slowly got better in my Chinese language skill, and then back in 2004, I started translating the 7 treasuries. If you remember, back in 2004, I specifically give you the 2 chapters. I printed out the 2 chapters into a little pamphlet on how to rely on a spiritual teacher. And later on, after the parinirvana of Ponso Rinpoche, since many things had changed, therefore I had to postpone this translation project. And then back in 2020, I had the plan to give teachings in Dubai as well as Russia. Well, it's great that I didn't go to Russia, otherwise it might be a bit difficult. After that, there were many other things that happened for various reasons, so I didn't make it on that trip, to that trip. But I stayed and started translating a few texts, including Entering the Way of the Great Vehicle, as well as translating the Kshitigarbha Sutra into Tibetan language. And then I started to rework on this particular translation on the wish-fulfilling treasury. So last year, including this year, I believe I began the translation around the January, and then completed the work in November, and then this year I started to do some more proofreading. As you may know, translation has lots of nuances, and as a translator, sometimes you will be able to notice those little errors afterwards. Especially when those errors are really easy. They're supposed to be something very simple, and then when you notice that you made a mistake over there, you would feel a sense of loss of confidence about yourself. But I think this is really common among all the translators. I was reading into Master Fazun's translation of Entering the Way of Madhyamika, and I noticed the way he translated certain verse or certain stanzas, it's very different. And then I thought to myself, so I guess it is the same for all translators, but we should definitely respect the translators' effort and their way of understanding too. Anyhow, despite all of those things that had happened, and despite various kinds of rumors about what is happening here, despite many interesting and sometimes anxious things that happened, throughout this period of time, I noticed that there are lots of obstacles, let it be on a personal level or as a group. There are lots of obstacles, and things are very different nowadays. You can probably notice that nowadays to listen to even one class is very difficult. Difficult for you as well as difficult for me to give one class. Recently, we see there are so many upheavals. We don't even need to mention more about Russia and Ukraine. There is Syria, and there is Israel, there is countries. And then there is Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. All of those different conflicts are happening nowadays. It seems that this world is so permeated with all kinds of aggression, and this world is in such a dangerous state of mind. Food security nowadays is also a hot topic. The export of food is now prohibited by many countries. Of course, we really hope that we can live the life that we had before again, but I'm really not sure if we can still have that, and it's very hard to say how long we will be able to have that. So many things had happened in the past few years, and sometimes when I look back, I think they're very interesting. Sometimes my life is filled with worry, especially when some of our fellow Sangha members, such as if the Sangha member's been questioned, then my mind would not be able to focus on my translation. And sometimes I would encounter all kinds of things, really. But whatever happened, I had never given up my translation or giving the teachings. I had never given up. If we were to only count on a peaceful world to carry on our Dharma activities, it's hard to say if we'll ever have that again. So do not disturb the other's mind and do not let go of your own path. And this is something that I am living by. Whenever I finish certain translation or the teaching, I feel good. This particular translation has 300,000 words. I translated one word. I translated word by word. A Sangha member told me that I think you're really good at this because it takes me so long to read it, and I can't even continue to read this halfway through because it's so difficult, but you translated the whole thing. There are people who knows other language and trying to translate this into a different language, and they told me that after trying for a few chapters, and they really couldn't do it anymore. Anyhow, it took me a long period of time to translate the wish-fulfilling treasury, and I'm very pleased now that we have this opportunity to study it. And I really hope that you can cherish this jewel, this treasure of Dharma. Now let's talk about Mipa Rinpoche and Pachu Rinpoche's praise or their opinion on wish-fulfilling treasury. Because I don't want to talk about how wonderful this text is as a translator, as a teacher. Otherwise, you would think that I am simply giving advertisement. As a businessman, that's something that you have to do. You would say that, oh, my product is very good for your stomach, is very good for your health. But I think over here I'm going to quote Mipa Rinpoche and quote Pachu Rinpoche, especially since you know what kind of great masters they are, so they are more trustworthy. In Pachu Rinpoche's verses on the encouragement to read the seven treasuries, he mainly praised the treasury of Dhammadhatu. But he did also talk about the treasury, the wish-fulfilling treasury, where he said that the wish-fulfilling jewel is very good at showing you what to take and what to abandon. This particular teaching gives the great treasury on listening, contemplation, and practice of the Dharma. Later, when we look at the content of this text, you will be able to see that all the knowledge the animated and the inanimated aspect of the world, all of those knowledge are included in the wish-fulfilling treasury. So over here, Patrul Rinpoche specifically said that you should study, contemplate, and practice this text so that you will perfectly understand the teaching of the Dharma. If you can understand this particular teaching, then right away you have already studied and practiced hundreds of treatises. That is why I specifically said that the wish-fulfilling treasury is like an encyclopedia, because by studying this text, by understanding this text, then it's just like you have already finished studying hundreds of treatises. Mipa Rinpoche also composed a long verse to praise this wish-fulfilling treasury. So I wanted to explain some of it to you, otherwise it would be a little bit difficult for you to understand. Mipa Rinpoche composed a commentary on the difficult points of the wish-fulfilling treasury and certain commentary on a few of the chapters. And this particular verse is from the commentary on the difficult points on the treasury of the wish-fulfilling treasury. So let's look at how Mipa Rinpoche sees this text. He over here says that the luminous awareness is self-existing, changeless Buddhas directly perceive it all at once. Omniscient Dharma King, who is adorned with great qualities, to such a guru I prostrate at your feet. This is a prostration verse to omniscient Longchenpa. Relying on your wonderful teaching that is like the sun, which illuminates the Dharma teaching of Nyingma, the wise ones carrying the supreme lineage establish the banner of great Vajrayana. So over here it says that the Longchenpa's teaching truly illuminated the Nyingma lineage, which could further spread the teaching or the light of the Nyingma teaching. So his teaching gives illumination onto the Nyingma teaching. The wise ones of the supreme lineage, their lotus flower would definitely be fully blossomed by the once they're illuminated by the sunlight. That is the teaching of Longchenpa and from the Nyingma. The sound of the teaching is like great thunder. By establishing the great banner of such wonderful, profound Vajrayana teaching, all the good celestial beings and Nagas, they are so joyous. They start to scatter the rain of flowers to adorn the three realms. So the seven treasuries, as well as the wish-fulfilling treasury, the teaching in itself and giving the teaching and studying the teaching would please all the good celestial beings and the Nagas, and they would rain down flowers to adorn the three realms. And in the afternoon, we started to have hails and rain and snow. So that's very auspicious. I'm not sure if it's because of all the celestial beings and Nagas are really happy about us having this teaching, or is it because we often in Larangar have lots of the auspicious weather? Do you know what that means? It is because we have a variety of weather in Larangar. We have all kinds of weathers here. So all kinds of virtuous and auspicious signs. This great treasury that is priceless can fulfill all the wishes of the wise sentient beings. While the foolish sentient beings, of course, they wouldn't even think about to receive such such profound teaching, that is the such great treasury, the profound teaching. Rather, they would only care about how much money they have or how much this particular food costs and so on. They would only care about those mundane things. But the wise ones are very different. They would care for what is really meaningful to their life. They would be content with the profound to receive the profound teachings, and they would find that the most meaningful. The various treasure trove that is filled with all kinds of treasures, even compared to the wish-fulfilling treasury, they are just like water dew that is hanging on the tip of a hair. So all the worldly treasury troves cannot compare to the wish-fulfilling treasury. Gold, silver, whatever things you have, they are no other than the worldly treasures that you can have for this lifetime, but wish-fulfilling treasury is much more profound than that. The supreme treasury, that is the wish-fulfilling jewel, if it is at any place, but if people were not to seek for it, rather they would spend their time to accumulate various kinds of meaningless wealth, then it is simply to squander one's life. How could one say that one has the eye of wisdom if one were to do so? So such a treasury of wish-fulfilling jewel, if we do not seek for it and to study it, rather if we were to study the Pramana, the Abhidharma, the Madhyamika, the Prajna Paramita, no, I'm just kidding. In fact, when it comes to the comparison to the wish-fulfilling treasury, the illusory net cannot compare to the importance or the supreme quality of this text. It is not to say that you should abandon the other teachings. It is to say that you should abandon all the seek and desire for the worldly wealth. I was joking about the other Dharma teachings are not as supreme. I did not mean to say that the 5 treatises are not as important. Over here, this particular comparison is on comparing the worldly accumulation versus the wish-fulfilling treasury. Over here, we're not locked down as any kinds of school. We study all kinds of teachings, but we're still kind of leaning towards the Nyingma. Over here, we mainly study Tibetan Buddhism. And then Pontsuk Rinpoche, as well as all the lineage masters we mainly follow, are the Nyingma schools. But when it comes to that, when you're staying here and studying, you don't necessarily have to consider yourself as Nyingmapas. So you can be from a Zen practice tradition, or you can be from any traditions. Let's see how Longchenpa continues to criticize this type of people. He said that after abandoning this faultless vehicle, which is passed down as the treasure that's given by the great sage. The great sage refers to the Buddha or the great teacher Guru Pamasambhava. If we were to give up the precious teaching of Mahaati, but to study various other teachings and care only about them, chime in with the others often, such kind of Nyingmapas are just like how a king reduces into a peasant. This is such an accurate description because the Nyingmapas, especially in Tibet, I'm not sure about in China mainland nowadays, but in Tibet, I think there are lots of Nyingmapas who engage in lots of debates. Of course, it's very good, which could definitely enhance wisdom. On the other hand, if you do not care about the treasure that's been passed down from the lineage, you only care about the superficial wordings, it is just like how a king would reduce into a peasant. A king should have been sitting on a high throne, but if a king were to be reduced into a peasant, that is such a pity. If one were to use the narrow wisdom of narrow discriminating wisdom that is just as tiny as the eye of the needle to fathom the profound and deep teaching of Mahāti. If you were to only have the understanding of pramana or of the logic or of the math and physics, those kinds of wisdom to measure the profound Madhyamika and the profound Mahāti teachings, then it is simply the harsh words that you understand, which is empty of any intrinsic meaning. The harsh words is not pronounced by the Buddha. The Buddha does not speak of any harsh words. If you perceive that harsh words as the true meaning and perceive those kinds of empty words into seeing the true Buddha, then that is simply of being extremely foolish. If you were to only believe in those wrong views and started to slander the Mahāti based on those wrong views, that is just too foolish. Compare the two groups of people, one who rely on a virtuous spiritual teacher and the other only believe in the wrong views and only engage in the study of the shallow worldly knowledge. There are definitely very different levels of realization for the two. The two kinds of wisdom or two kinds of realization, one who only studies the worldly knowledge and the other to come to the full realization of the emptiness and the realization of Mahāti, are definitely very, very different. On top of that, there are the foolish practitioners who believes very deeply in their shallow wisdom and claims that they understand Mahāti. For those kinds of people, they are purely heretics. But the true Mahāti has to combine the following three key points. The first one is to listen extensively on the profound teaching, and then secondly, you have to practice with pith instruction, and then you can delve into the supreme view. That is the lineage passed down by omniscient Longchenpa, which is undefiled teaching. So you have to have all three of the aspects. The first of you have to have you have to study extensively on the profound path, and secondly, you have to obtain pith instruction, and then thirdly, you have to practice diligently. For the group of people with auspicious connections, if they understand this, then they will definitely be aided by this teaching. The wish-fulfilling treasury appears as words to help the practitioners to enter into the supreme view. That is, all phenomena is emptiness, which is the true nature of all phenomena. So for those of you who made auspicious connections, then with the aid of the words that's used in the wish-fulfilling treasury, they can be helped to understand or come to the realization of ultimate truth. Therefore, I shall encourage all of you to read diligently, to practice diligently. The words are like a teacher without any aggression. So whenever you can't fall asleep, then you should get up and start reading the wish-fulfilling treasury. It is no other than Longchenpa standing there and giving you the teaching of the wish-fulfilling treasury. There is no difference. Truly, it is like that. Therefore, everyone should diligently read the treasury of the wish-fulfilling treasury. I'm not sure how well I will be giving this teaching, but I think if I were to give you a hint, for those of you who have lots of wisdom, then you understand why. On top of that, after listening to this, you'll see how Mipa Rinpoche and Pachu Rinpoche as well as Ponsuk Rinpoche place such a great importance on the seven treasuries. For example, when he went to the Mount Wutai, he specifically gave teachings on the wish-fulfilling treasury. And now when I look back, I see how forgetful he is. I'm sure there are lots of causes, auspicious causes and conditions. At Mount Wutai, he gave the oral transmission and asked the other two Khenpos to give oral transmission. In fact, all three of them have all passed away. Khenpo Gaba, Khenpo Jinwang, and Ponsuk Rinpoche, they're no longer with us. However, the lineage of the teaching, the oral transmission of the teaching, and this Dharma has been passed on. With this auspicious connection, we shall continuously to propagate this teaching to the kinds of disciples who made auspicious connections. To encounter this teaching is not that easy. Without the auspicious connection, it's not that easy to encounter this teaching. In the past few years especially, we all know what the situations are. So it's definitely not that simple to just receive this profound teaching. In the Dark Age, there are all aspects of obstacles that puts great pressure onto oneself. I believe back in Mipa Rinpoche's time, there were various kinds of conflicts around Dege, and there are different pandemics going on as well, and he was ill in the later part of his life. Also, he saw many of those adharmic things happening around the world. Therefore, there's an exhibition of his aversion in many of his writings back then. Though there are lots of aversion and renunciation from this world, Mipa Rinpoche really wanted to abide in retreat in the mountains. However, because this teaching that's composed by the omniscient Longchenpa, the Dharma Raja, he said that I still wish to propagate this teaching as much as I can, because the cause and condition has come to this auspicious, it is the auspicious time to propagate this Dharma. Therefore, I do not dare to give up this auspicious teaching or this auspicious aspiration. So in the later part of his life, Mipa Rinpoche composed many outlines for the Longchenpa's teachings, and that's why I specifically translated those outlines as well, so that it will be easier for us to understand the text. Therefore, I strongly encourage all of you to try your best attentively and diligently study this teaching. Mipa Rinpoche then continues to say that I pray that all of you who made auspicious connections to the wish-fulfilling treasury, as well as the limitless sentient beings, may get their wishes fulfilled. May they enjoy the wish-fulfilling treasury and attain liberation, as well as enjoy the joyful banquet that would come to the temporary and ultimate fruition. Khenpo Deba stated that the two most cherished texts for him is the wish-fulfilling treasury as well as the ornament of Madhyamika. Those are the two most cherished texts by him. He received the oral transmission by the Poyo Khenpo also he taught on this and he studied on it. And then later on, we made supplication to Khenpo Deba asking him to compose a commentary on the verses of the wish-fulfilling treasury. Back in 2005, he indeed composed a commentary on the verses of wish-fulfilling treasury. It is currently only available in Tibetan language, but it's definitely considered as one of the most important texts that he composed. He used the methods of praising the wish-fulfilling treasury in the 8 auspicious signs, and he gave lots of pithy instructions. And whenever it's possible, I wish to give you that teaching as well. Another text is the commentary on the ornaments of Madhyamika. That doesn't need to be stated any further, but but I think people with wisdom, they would definitely, after listening to these precious qualities of wish-fulfilling treasury, they would spend great time and attentiveness to study it. At the end of this, I quoted from the commentary of the 18th chapter by Mipa Rinpoche. He said that may all the sentient beings who sees and touches and remembers and listens to this teaching, may their treasury of the 8 kinds of eloquence be completely reviewed and attain realization in this very lifetime, which is the primordial fruition of Manjushri. May this particular teaching that is just like the sun, illuminating the world without exception, may it dispel the darkness of ignorance, and may the lotus of the propagation of Dharma be blossomed. Well, initially, when I first translated this teaching, I was a little bit afraid because I'm not sure if the protectors of the teaching would give me permission to do so. But at the end of Longchenpa's teaching, he usually would say that may the Dharma propagate. So I thought to myself, after this text is translated into the Chinese language, it would be easier for people to translate it into English or Japanese or other languages. Just like after I finished translating the Sarah Condrell's biography, many other people can start to translate that text into different languages. Look at Mipa Rinpoche's aspiration, where he says that may the sunlight of the precious teaching be permeated all over the world, so it can dispel the darkness in this world, and the lotus of propagation of the Dharma as well as benefiting sentient beings can blossom. All of these praises and the aspirations made by Mipa Rinpoche, but made by Longchenpa, their words are not ordinary speech. They are made of Vajra speech. So we can see that this particular text is definitely very different than the ordinary wisdom. It is different than the text on filial piety, than the teachings on educating children from the classical texts. Of course, I'm not saying that they're not great. It's because my teachings on those are not good. Otherwise, I don't want you to get upset about that. So in the outline, it says that the Great Mahayana Pithy Instruction Shastra, or the commentary, which is the wish-fulfilling treasury, has 4 aspects, which is the meaning of the name, the prostration, and the actual content, as well as the concluding meanings. The title is the commentary of the Mahayana Pithy Instruction, the wish-fulfilling treasury. Then it is the homage. I pay homage to the youthful Manjushri. Manjushri, as you know, is the one who has to come to the full realization and eradication. The youthful refers to the way that he manifests. So the youthful Manjushri. The following part is not part of the text, the printed version right now. In fact, they are part of the commentary, but somehow they place it over here. Initially, I thought they would understand what to do, but it seems that they didn't. So this part is not included. It's part of the commentary. We just need to look at the outline that's composed by Mipa Rinpoche and to look at the verses. Now let us look at the first chapter, the formation of samsara. I think over here it would be better to put that title a little bit lower in terms of the typesetting. So now let's look at the outline composed by Mipa Rinpoche. Previously, we already talked about A1, which is the name of this text, and then the A2, which is the verse of homage, and the A3 has three parts, which is entering into the text. The second part is the actual text, and the third one is the completion text. Then the B2, which talks about entering into the text, it has two aspects. The first one is praising the text, and the second one is making aspiration. And then for C1, it talks about it correlates, so it branches off from the B1 where it has the two aspects, right? So the C1 has the praises to the text. Currently, our typesetting is arranged as such that the textual outline is combined with the verses, so that it would be easier for you to understand. But usually, you really shouldn't put the outline together with the commentary. Now, let's look at the verses of homage. It says, "From the pure light of great compassionate space adorns the full moon of wisdom and compassion, the manifestation who fulfills all wishes to boundless beings, homage to the sunlight that radiates benefit and happiness." The first verse refers to the Dharmakaya because the Dharmakaya is of the pure light. And then the full moon of wisdom and compassion refers to the Sambhogakaya, whom manifests great wisdom and compassion. So over here, the first one refers to the sun, and the second one is the moon. And then the manifestation who fulfills all wishes of boundless light. The manifestation refers to the Nirmanakaya. Homage to the sunlight that radiates benefit and happiness, the relative and ultimate benefit. This refers to the activity of the Buddha. They're just like the sunlight, the bright sunlight. The Tathagata who embodies all the three kayas. To this Tathagata, I pay homage. Now you should read into the commentary so that you will be able to understand it further. After studying this, at least you should pay lip service of praising it. Last year, I asked and I encouraged everyone to write a diary every day. For those of you who did that without missing even one day, I think it would be good to give them some kind of reward. I myself, I would definitely be able to get that reward. Now, sought by the fortunate ones, this true practice method which leads to supreme liberation, honored as the peak among all, now I reveal it completely. Why Lung Trungpa composed this text is because this text is sought by the fortunate ones, so that he expound this teaching so that the fortunate ones can receive the true teaching or this true method. We begin our practice of Ati all the way from Nungzhou, from preliminary practice. We have to practice step by step. According to the memorandum of preliminary practice composed by Khenpo Achong, he said that initially in our lineage or in our school, there are two aspects or two ways to attain liberation. One way is to practice face by face, by attaining the peace instructions face by face, and the other one is step by step. The face-by-face type of practice was practiced by Longchenpa and Kumaranta. He practiced with him for 6 years while receiving the face-by-face peace instructions from Kumaranta. After receiving instruction for one period of time, he would practice in it and then go to his teacher and receive the teaching again. So that's more like how the Chan or Zen tradition would also receive instructions period by period or face by face. But later, Longchenpa also pointed out that it is crucial for the later disciples to practice in the way that is step by step. You have to go through the common and uncommon preliminary practices, and then slowly and slowly, step by step, to practice on the Mahāti. Therefore, all of you who are sitting here, if you want to receive the peace instruction face by face and practice it in such a way, I think it would be a little difficult. Therefore, we should practice in the way that is step by step. So we should practice it one by one according to the common and uncommon preliminary practices. Over here, it says that if one were to seek for liberation, there are many different methods, but the pinnacle of all the teaching is the Ati. So now I will expound this teaching to you. Now, in terms of what's been expounded, there are 22 chapters. And comes to C2, it comes to what to accept and what to reject. What to accept is the nature of nirvana, and what to reject is the nature of samsara. So we should move the title of the formation of samsara to here. That's the title of the chapter. Before this part, there are really the verses on homage and the verses of aspiration. That's all for today on the wish-fulfilling treasury.